All right, 623 flock. Pull up a chair. Grab your phone fingers and prepare to be emotionally inconvenienced, because today we're talking about the quietest mic drop in desert sports history. Why Larry Fitzgerald, Larry Legend, walked away from the Arizona Cardinals in 2020. Was it age? Was it vibes? Was it the football equivalent of realizing you've been in a toxic relationship for 17 years and finally deciding you deserve better? Let's get into it. The public narrative was simple. Larry just didn't feel the urge to play anymore, right? Sure. Totally normal, huh? Franchise icon, still productive, still respected. And he just woke up one morning like, nah, I'm good. That's what I think. He probably said, no, I'm good. Okay, but that's the NFL version of it. Of it's not you, it's me, right? When everybody in the room knows it's absolutely you. Okay? Because here's the thing. Fitzgerald didn't limp out. He didn't get forced out. He just quietly closed the door. And when a guy who spent nearly 2 decades carrying a franchise on his back leaves without a farewell tour, you start asking questions. Now, let's address the spicy wing on the platter. The Kyler Murray angle. Was Larry fed up with the new era? Did he look at the offense and think, I've survived the quarterback carousel from football purgatory, and this is how it ends? To be clear, there's no concrete proof Fitzgerald left because of Murray. But statistically, the Cardinals were shifting younger, faster, more vertical. And Larry's role was shrinking into that 3rd and 7, security blanket who still has better hands than everyone in his lane, okay? And for a guy who spent his career being the adult in the room, maybe mentoring while losing just stopped being fun, okay? Shocking concept, I know. A competitor wanting to compete. It really makes me think. If you want to understand Fitzgerald's legacy, you have to appreciate the absolute museum of mediocrity he caught passes from. Yes, there were bright spots. Kurt Warner, the Hall of Fame, stretch that took Arizona to a Super Bowl. Carson Palmer, the Renaissance years when the offense actually looked like it belonged in the modern NFL. And then there's the rest of the list. We're talking Josh McCown, Matt Leinart, Kevin Cobb, John Skelton, Derek Anderson, Mike or Max Hall, whatever his name was. Max Hall, I think. All right? That's not a quarterback room. That's a support group. Okay? And through all of it, Fitzgerald just kept stacking Hall of Fame numbers like it was a casual hobby. Over 17 years, right? He basically turned contested catch into a personality trait, okay? So when people debate his greatness, remember, most elite receivers had stability. Larry had survival training, if you could call it that, all right? He literally had survival training. I don't mean to laugh, but it is true, okay? So here's where the speculation creeps in. By 2020, the Cardinals were in transition, okay? New leadership style, I guess you could call it. New offensive identity, new timeline, okay? Fitzgerald had always been the bridge between eras, but eventually every bridge gets replaced by a highway, okay? To lightly put it. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't messy. It just felt final, okay? And sometimes that says more than a press conference ever could. No big farewell suggests he knew the team was moving on, okay? Let's be clear. And maybe he was tired of being the last connection to every previous rebuild. That could be taken into consideration too also, right? But now let's zoom out, because you can't talk about Fitzgerald without talking about the franchise itself, okay? The Cardinals' history from Chicago to St. Louis to Arizona has been a masterclass in sustained almost dareness, okay? Decades of mediocrity sprinkled with, brief competence, like parsing on a plate that nobody really ordered, okay? Which raises the uncomfortable question, okay? Would it have been better if Arizona had just launched, a brand new franchise identity instead of inheriting decades of baggage? Because Fitzgerald spent his entire prime being the gold trim on a house that kept forgetting how to build a foundation. All right, let's be honest. And imagine the alternate timeline. Same player, same professionalism, but attached to a consistently stable contender. We're probably talking about multiple rings and zero debates about where he ranks all time. Period. Instead, he became the patron saint of doing everything right while the organization figures itself out. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Just the way I look at it, I have to come to that conclusion in a way that it's painful, but it is what it is. Okay. So why didn't Larry Fitzgerald step away? Not one reason, a cocktail. Age and mileage, a shrinking on-field role, a franchise shifting timelines, like I said previously, and maybe, just maybe, the realization that we've already given the Cardinals more loyalty than just players give the sport itself, okay? At some point, even the most patient superstar looks and says, I've done enough carrying. I'm done. So Larry Fitzgerald didn't leave because he couldn't play. He left because he didn't need to prove anything else, okay? Get that. Not to the team, not to the league, and definitely not to fans who watched him turn chaos into consistency for nearly 2 decades. And Cardinals fans, if that makes you uncomfortable, good. That's what happens when a generational player's legacy, okay, shines brighter than the organization he played for. So, this has been the 623 Birdman, reminding you that sometimes the greatest achievement in a franchise history isn't a trophy. It's convincing a Hall of Famer to stay as long as he did. Like, share, subscribe. I'm out, 623 Birdman, giving it to you real. Peace.